Well, good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much for the exaggerated introduction. I'm just a soldier of cities. I wanted to make a first question. I've seen that my former mates and someone speaking after me have got the representation of their embassies. The French embassy. There's the Austrian embassy. Is there the Spanish embassy here? I'm a Catalan, so you can imagine that's not the best moment for them. So I'm going to talk to you about superblocks using this city, the capital of my country, Barcelona. How many people have been to Barcelona in this room? I can imagine. So I should be sitting here and you coming up here. This is ridiculous. It's amazing. Well, Barcelona is a nice place to visit, and it's a nice place to live. That's true. But Barcelona is an invention. I like to say that Barcelona is a social dream. What really makes us a bit special is that for 150 years, in a certain way, all the people taking care of the city, which does not mean only the politicians, and for a certain period of time, for sure not the politicians, everybody thought about that specific place as a place in which to generate hope, generate a future. Not just for the rich people, but for everybody. And a part of that success is because there was someone thinking about the city as you have it behind me, as a grid made of I would say neuronal cells that work by themselves as a city, something that was very much criticized at the beginning. And the city has been evolving. I like to say that what we Catalans are, we are Roman soldiers that were displaced to that very nice part of the Mediterranean. We keep the language, we keep the civil right. Then we have the influence of the Jews, the Arabs. Of course, we are part of the Carolingian Empire, but we are a mixture of people that were able to produce something like this. Okay? So we understood, with all the mistakes and all the problems that we had, that the evolution of the city had to be based in an idea of evolution that even though we were very pro-modernity, and this is the Le Corbusier project for Barcelona, developed in 1932, and a part of it was developed, thanks God that not all of it, just a part of it, but we are and we are going to be very much pro-progress because that's a part of the social evolution of the social dream that I'm talking about. So this could be, in a way, the different phases of the evolution of my city. We were, if you want, Barcelona, this is just for the sake of this speech, okay? So don't take it as scientific. It's a way of understanding that we put in the year zero, Barcelona was already generated by the Romans. This is Barcelona 1.0. In 1350, we had the enlargement, the second wall of Barcelona. The walls that defined the city until almost 60, 70, because after several situations, we were not allowed to grow, and that's why the city grew inside the city for a long time. For 7 centuries, we were not allowed to grow. But all of a sudden, we exploded, and we generated, in the end, the metropolitan area. In fact, I was the father of the law of the Barcelona metropolitan area, but it was enough. And all of a sudden, we sat and we said, should we keep on just growing? Shouldn't we think about the city as a place in which we can reinvent, as Elaine said very well before, reinvent the way in which we live together to recuperate those values, those principles that made the old city work so well, that place in which we used to have the saints and the monks and the anarchists and the communists, and we had the revolution, and where Engels said that there was no city on earth with being more bombed than Barcelona. But at the same time, we have Sagrada Familia, that for some people wonderful, for others horrible, church made by Gaudí. that place that is a condensation of humanity. Can we go back to that? And that's the principle of the superblock and the smart revolution, based on something that you have here, based on another principle. And the principle, this is a map of the treasure, by the way. I don't know if there are here promoters and people with a lot of money, but this is the map of the treasure of the city. All cities are exactly the same, no matter what people tell you. What's your name? John. John, can you stand up for a second? John with the coffee in his hand. As you can see, he's very different than me. Well, and now I'm taller than you, but that's okay. I think he's taller than me. He's more handsome. He's younger. We're very different. But John and I share exactly the same metabolism. And thank you, John. So this, it was prepared. So this, what I say, is good for any city on earth. So Barcelona shares the same metabolism with Oslo, with Timbuktu, with Delhi, no matter what guys dressed in black, normally, very expensive, tell you. That's false. We are sharing exactly the same metabolism, which means that we have to make sure that the city works at a certain level, and then what happens above that level, once the metabolism works well, we then have to make sure that the identity of the city, that the character of the city is enhanced. And that's what we have been trying to do at many different levels. So I'm going to talk to you very quickly about the principles related to the people. So we want healthy environments, we want social and inclusive spaces, we want innovative ecosystem and accessible social services, which have then to be translated to what we do at the public space level, to what we do in the recuperation of what the city has to be. And that is good for corners of the city, as again Elaine explained very well before. It has to do with what we call in Barcelona micro-urbanizations, this program that launches by groups of 20 side waves, that launches the transformation of corners of the city. In our case in Barcelona, we cared about the level of money that we spent in each one of those points. We call that also urban acupunctures. You know acupunctures? So we put a crystal ceiling of no more than 100,000 euros per site. Low cost, very high impact, quick change, in order to demonstrate to people that we could really change the things. In that, creativity and the embedment of smart solutions is very important, but always as an enabler. It also works, and you see that we are going through different levels, it works for the way in which we work with housing, in which we work with the recuperation of old buildings in the city. Yesterday, by the way, we were walking around the place in Oslo, and we were taking to a very nice restaurant. There's a co-working space in the old, one of the old banks of Oslo. You know how to do things, so I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just refreshing you ideas that have to make us get rid of the pilot program approach. I am one of the main enemies on earth of pilots. Anyone working with pilots means that they are not willing to change things, they just want to showcase. We have to go for real, strong programs to change the city. So that's what we do at other levels. For example, when we talk about energy, I am a full believer that the city is going to be the first place on earth in which we are going to generate self-sufficient structures. This is a Barcelona blog. This is a real project. The way in which we, by density, mixticity, etc., we can also generate energy grids that allow us to change the current energy model. Here in the West, what we do is we import well-being, perhaps not in Norway because you have a lot of oil, but at least in our country we do import welfare in terms of energy, and we export harm. We export pain, and we need huge armies, and we need huge financial structures. While we think, that's my personal conviction, I hope it's yours also, that nowadays we have technology enough on Earth to generate all the energy that we need in order to move our cities, in order to move our economies. In Barcelona, when I said that some years ago, people thought I had drunk a lot. I like wine, but not that much. Nowadays, Barcelona produces 150%, after 5 years, produces 150% of the energy that the city needs to move all its municipal facilities, including trucks, buses, everything. In 20 years' time, Barcelona will be in the position, if the people ruling the city want to produce all the energy that the city as a whole thing needs to run as a self. So these are the things that have to make a change the way in which we think. And that operates at all levels, from the people to any kind of scale. But let's go to the superblock. This is why they told me to come. But as you're going to see, it's very related to what I'm saying. Well, this is Barcelona. This grid, even though Barcelona, and then I'm going to talk about cities that don't have such a grid, but Barcelona put it very easy to us. So we decided to work on the grid in order to understand whether we could change the model that we have, that we used to have, this one here, to a model in which what happened inside the superblock was more human. Now, and I'm going to insist a lot in this. I don't know the word for that in English, but I'm going to try to make you understand what I mean. Superblocks and self-sufficiency and sustainability and pedestrianization are very prone to generate what I call chachiwachi politics. Oh, how cool I am. Do you understand what I mean, chachiwachi? Chachiwachi is what my eldest daughter would have said 10 years ago. Daddy, I have a chachiwachi dress. Oh, wonderful. Chachiwachi politics, flowers in the hair politics, might be very nice to win elections, very nice to generate headlines on sexy newspapers. But they are a disaster in the end, as I'm going to tell you, because we did mistakes like this. Superblocks, the new way in which we have to think the city is not about chachiwachi politics. It is very serious politics. It is structural politics, for which we need very strong politicians with very clear ideas. We need a very strong civil society, very strong civil society, and we need vendors, promoters that really understand, developers, I mean, that really understand what the social dream is about. Otherwise, we're going to be lost in a very nice discourse, a speech. I'm going to be able to come to see, well, this would be the last time that I would come here, but I could make lots of speeches, but no delivery at all. So what we started to do was understanding how the city worked, and all of a sudden, we tried to use and to understand how we could jump from one model to the other. And the first decision that we made was very simple. I did not accept any project coming to my desk that did not include the increase of at least 40% of pedestrian use of the specific area that was being changed. And as you have all been to Barcelona, this is Diagonal Avenue, and this is Passeig de Gràcia, you know that is very central. We transformed these avenues by adding a 40% of pedestrianization. So it was a way towards the superblock. But mistakes can be made, and this is Poblenou, the 22-watt quarter, very nice district in which the old warehouses, the old logistic units were changed to these buildings that you have. And someone decided to generate, announcing it before working, to generate a superilla. Superilla means super island. An island in Catalan is a block. And the problem is that it worked very well for kids during the day, but it didn't work for people living there. Nobody had talked to neighbors. It was very nice during the day. It was very bad at night. It was very good, theoretically speaking, on the weekend, but during the day, it was a disaster. And the problem is that someone forgot that a superblock is not chachi-wachi politics. A superblock must put the whole city in contact with a concept in a way that we really understand what the city is. So the first thing that we did was, for example, using a map in which markets were important. That map is a map of the markets of Barcelona. And then we went to a place where the market was, and we generated a superblock that was not obvious. Because superblock is not about traffic only, even though it is true. We reduced 20% of the traffic of Barcelona. These are the official figures, so I'm not just inventing it. These are the official figures. But we started to work with this concept here, this is also in Catalan, quarters at human speed. So we took, in this case, this quarter here, and we generated a superblock. We analyzed what was in the city. I'm talking about this one here. This is FC Barcelona Stadium. What? We had to start by there. But what people don't know is that underneath FC Barcelona Stadium, or underneath Camp Nou, we have a quarter with a lot of social problems, in part generated by the presence of the stadium there. So we wanted to work on that. So what we did was starting to work with people, starting to scan. You remember the map of the treasure that I said before? Scanning, following that metabolism analysis, scanning each one of the verticals, seeing, working with big data, understanding how the ground floors work, getting the opinion of the citizens, getting the opinion of the civic society, working with them, then making a real scan and making a real X-ray analysis of what was going on. And based on that, we started to work on the change of the places. So we didn't go to very sexy places. This one of the drug market areas that we had in that quarter that started to change. Schools were the ones that painted these. We work with disabled associations and elderly associations. It is a quarter with very old people unemployed. So we started to work with them to define how the place had to be. And all of a sudden, this is very funny. This is a mural. I hired undercover street artists. And they came to me, when I talked to them, they said, yeah, Tony, we're going to paint it. No, I said, no, my friend. I'm hiring you. I am like the Pope, Julius II, talking to Michelangelo. If the Pope had allowed Michelangelo to paint whatever in the Sistine Chapel, we would have who knows what. But he wanted to paint God and Adam. So I want you to paint what I tell you. So we made a program on the poets that fought for freedom during Francoism. And all that superblock is painted by street artists recuperating the identity of a quarter that had been fighting against Franco using poetry. So it is the mixture of street art, civic society, associations, architecture. We need very good architecture there, but also anthropologists, biologists, because we have a problem with the plants, etc. And then we did another thing. We recuperated the old factories. We bought very old factories abandoned over there, and we generated what we call athenaeums of fabrication. These athenaeums of fabrication are places in which we teach informally people to work with 3D printers, to generate, to work with computers, to work in the digital era. We did that there. We did that in the poorest quarter of Barcelona, Torre Baró. That's going up to Girona. When you exit Barcelona, you go to La Costa Brava. You don't see it, but at the left-hand side, you have one of the poorest quarters in Europe. Over there, we did things like this. So it meant that we generated a superblock that was mainly social, using technology and architecture and urbanism as enablers, not as an objective by themselves. I'm going to go very quickly through another kind of superblock or transformation that will explain to you how we could take out 20% of the cars of Barcelona. Very quickly, I'm going to talk about this center of the city, Glorias. We were here before, and now we are here. This is the Portària of Barcelona, okay? So this was Glorias, the main traffic hub inside the city, built during the famous Olympic Games. Olympic Games had very good things for us, but some of the deeds that were made then were a disaster. One of the disasters was putting one of the main car hubs inside the city. So there had been many plans to work on this. I'm not going to go through it. You can see in this plan of 1859 that Glorious was the center of the city, but the guy that painted, who was very important, Cerdà, had a very bad night when he painted that square at that time. So we have been suffering of that bad concept for 150 years. Then Jocelyn came, Le Corbusier, lots of people. This is when I was born. 1960, that was the square was like in 1965. I know that I seem younger than that. You don't have to. Well, we went through very different situations, but we decided to be loyal to our own ideas. And we said, okay, if we want a city, and we had a mantra for Barcelona, and our mantra was, we want Barcelona to be in 30 years' time a human speed city with productive quarters. So we want to bring back production to the city, not as production, not as the old way things. I know I have to finish, 2 minutes, but I enjoy talking about Barcelona. You made a horrible mistake. So at the human speed, so we decided to do, I'm going to go very quickly, we decided to do this. Which is going to become, this is what we did in also working with associations and people, which is going to ending up in this. This is what we call the meanwhile spaces. So we opened the city during the public works. What cities do usually is they close a city for, and we opened it up. Okay, and we made a wonderful exhibition right in the middle of this working square. You see the cranes behind that. On the fall of Barcelona during the Spanish Civil War. And we opened it to street artists. And this is very funny, because you see here people were spying what was going on. There's something is going on. So it all changed like this. And the city is going to look like this in the end, okay? But we also are exporting this model to other places very quickly. I'm finishing now. I'm finishing because this is Pune in India. Just 1 minute, no, 1 minute. This is Pune in India. And Pune, I'm going to go to it. Pune has this. These are open-air sewages. And they don't know how to do with it, what to do with that. So we are working with them in a wonderful project that is turning the sewages into those corridors, only walkable. If you've been to India, you know that India is stuck in a traffic jam. Well, like most of the world. But Oslo. I haven't seen cars in Oslo. We are going to use a super block model, or the Barcelona, we're using it, to make them understand that by understanding, reading the city as it is, not importing anything, not importing models from Barcelona, but working with them, you can really improve the city. And this is all. We're doing this in Colombia, and blah, 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 blah. Thank you. So sorry.
I understand you can talk for this a long time, and it's very interesting to hear. And you actually asked for my question is if it's transferable to other cities. But I got a question from the audience, and you have I could give a quick answer. It says, when working on radical transition, it's hard to avoid the pilot stage. But how to move from pilot to large scale, and the experiences to share? Very short.
Very short, very shortly. One, you have to have a very strong vision. Have a mantra. Have a mantra. Two, generate what I call a 6 months, a quick win program. 6 months, you have to cut the mantra in 6 months term. Because urbanism is politics, and you have to be aware of it. So you have to work also, and this is fair, with the political calendar. If you do these two things with a very strong vision, with a mantra for the next 30 years, and then you slice it up in sound, quick win program, you're going to make it. You might not win the elections, but you're going to make it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.